to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone set to speak for Citizens Forum? Dana, no? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the only agenda item tonight, which is the Advanced Learners presentation.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity for us to share a little bit about our PCSD Advanced Learners programming. I'm here tonight kind of new in my role, overseeing the Advanced Learner programming in collaboration with our LST team as well as our learning leaders, and really funneling into working with the teachers around our programming. So tonight we're going to look at a few different things in regards to advanced learning. We'll take a look at our mission and then the philosophy and how that really correlates with our district mission. Look at the state statute definition of what a gifted learner is and what that means for our vision. We'll go into current opportunities. We'll look at that kind of through the elementary lens and then also through the secondary lens, and then our future goals as we look at what we want it to look like as we move forward and continue to grow and strengthen our programming. So, what are we committed to? Our mission really is the foundation for everything we do here in our district. And when we look at how that advanced learner philosophy connects to the mission, it really is putting that mission into practice for students with exceptional abilities. And we think of this as really our why behind everything that we do. The mission is our overall big picture, ensuring all students gain those knowledge and skills to be successful. And then you zoom in to ensure those students who are ready for additional challenges continue to grow around that advanced learner philosophy. What are we committed to as well is really ensuring that we're following state statute, and you can see here that gifted and talented pupils are defined by showing high capabilities in one of 5 areas. So you can see there's intellectual, creative, artistic, leadership, and academic. And so with that, in one or more of those areas, students showing exceptional abilities would need service or activities that aren't provided in like the regular curriculum to fully develop their capabilities. And within our district, we're referring to them as advanced learners, and a lot of other neighboring districts statewide, that's a term that you're going to hear a lot, is that advanced learner. So when we look at vision for our advanced learners here in Pulaski, really looking at this kind of from a 3-pronged approach, identifying who our advanced learners are. Those are the categories you can see listed there, those 5 different categories. There's links here that talk a little bit more in depth about what the definition is for each of those categories. That is pulled right from our Advanced Learner Handbook. In the board memo that was shared with all of you, we have that Advanced Learner Handbook, so there's a ton more details around that. But those are the definitions of each category, and then it breaks it down into characteristics in each of those categories. Then into programming, so we're really committed to that differentiation, providing those critical thinking opportunities, experiences within the school and outside of school, as well as tapping into those kind of cluster groups, flexible grouping to meet student needs. And then lastly, around support and communication. So when we look at that, we are looking at kind of that seamless transition from grade to grade and school to school, having that continuity. And then also having parent feedback, a big part of that. It's a team approach. So when we're looking at meeting the needs of our students, we're working through that as a team with that parent feedback as a part of what we're doing, and then providing support within the classroom. So this brings us to our 4 critical questions, our PLC 4 critical questions, and we want to show about really how this is linked to that 4th question. How do we respond when they have already learned, right? And so this is really the premise of our advanced learners. How do we respond when they've actually learned it? And just recognizing their mastery isn't enough. The goal around our advanced learning programming is that we need to provide meaningful steps whether that's enrichment, extension, acceleration, to meet their needs and push them in their learning. This is where our advanced learner philosophy connects with our PLC model. So we want to show that connection because that's what really is embedded deep in what we believe here in Pulaski. So this slide is a slide that you've probably seen before. As we look at our 4 critical questions, just want to highlight how that really connects directly to our RTI framework. And when we're looking at those questions, the questions guide us in making decisions within the levels of our pyramid, so you can see the tiers there. And some of the things that we'll be talking about tonight are tier 2 and some are tier 3. So just kind of bringing that to light. What do we do when students have mastered it? Well, we use that to help drive that instruction based on this model here. And then later in the presentation, we'll kind of come back to this and the overall continuum that was provided by DPI and how that fits into our advanced learner programming. So we want to also touch on the identification process. This is a flowchart that was in the handbook as well. And there's a lot going on here, a lot of different parts to it. A few things to draw attention to is it really is data driven throughout the whole process. So we're using data each step of the way. And it's not just assessment scores, we're looking at the whole child. So we're looking at aptitude rubrics, we're looking at work samples, observations. All of those pieces help develop a plan for our children and their success. Many cases lead to universal classroom differentiation and enrichment. There are a few cases that would lead to that right side where you could have grade acceleration or subject acceleration or a differentiated education plan, a DEP. Right now we do have just one DEP in the district. Historically we've had more. That is something that just kind of through COVID and different things with catching up on learning, that focus may have shifted some, so that's a goal of ours, is to continue to strengthen that process. But just want to highlight that very few students would fall into that category. Many, you can meet their needs right through classroom differentiation and those opportunities. Part of this as well is this is a team approach. So this is not just a decision that's made by just the classroom teacher or one administrator. This is the parent, counselor, teacher, a lot of times our LST, just that whole team that works with that child to really create a plan that is unique and going to meet the needs of that student. So no 2 pathways are alike, dependent on the needs of that child. So when we're looking at the whole child, you know, I mentioned that we look at a lot of different things when we're looking at just assessing where they're at, not just the academic and kind of those scores. So we're going to go into this referral form, and I'm going to turn it over to Tricia here.
Yes. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Tricia Paul. I'm the learning support teacher at Hillcrest, so I remember Heidi. So thank you for having us here today. The screen in front of you is taken right from the Advanced Learner's Handbook. It's part of the referral form. And so although we do look at standardized tests, work samples, all of those things that would be typical of an advanced learner, we also know that there are things that are essential for their success beyond that. And that's what that bottom part is referring to, especially in elementary and maybe in middle school. Are they self-motivated? Do they have problem-solving skills? Can they communicate well? All of those things are important, especially depending on the amount of kids that you have that you're trying to service, because sometimes they might be on their own. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to change my slide. Thank you. Right now, our current opportunities is we do have an identification process for advanced learners and for acceleration. As we mentioned before, there are 5 different areas. There is a multi-step process that we would go through using assessments and those rubrics and the performance data. as Jolynn said, it's a team approach, so every student, everyone's needs are met a little bit differently and they may not follow the same path. As she also mentioned, a lot of times that is met through differentiation in the classroom, I would say especially in elementary. The LST teachers with resources can help with ideas, skill building. We do have, at our school we call it win time, it's also called target time, go time. It's part of that process, that teaching and learning process that we look at whenever we're planning and we look at assessments. So if we have students after a formative assessment or end of the unit assessment and we see that they already have it, or even before, if we give a pretest, they already have it, then we plan around that. What are we gonna do for that student or those students that have already met these learning targets or already have proven that they have the power standards met? So we do have conversations about that. It's part of our planning process. And then of course, if we do decide as a team that acceleration is needed, there is something called a DEP. It's like an IEP, but it's a differentiation education plan, a differentiated education plan. And it's customized kind of beyond the curriculum that they are receiving at that time in that particular grade level. There's also subject acceleration. So if perhaps they're high in math, they could just be accelerated in that particular subject. And there's also grade advancement where they would be promoted a full grade depending on what our findings and what is the end goal that people are aiming for. Amanda and I, she's the LST at the middle school, put together just some examples from our own experience. This might not be everything that's happening, but at Hillcrest I can speak to what we have for the elementary. In elementary, we do a lot of leadership things, a lot of working together, all of those things that they need as they get older in school and in life. We have Hope Squad, which is offered to 5th graders. It's a peer nominated activity and they receive training about resilience and mental wellness and bullying and things like that. And then as they get older, it's more of a suicide prevention program, I think, but in elementary it's more leadership and things like that. At Hillcrest we have live announcements, and so if you're interested in live announcements, you have to kind of promote yourself. You videotape yourself kind of like an audition, and then the whole school watches live announcements every day. We have peer mentors. Those kids help other students if needed. If we have some dysregulated younger kids, sometimes the older kids will come and help or support them within the classroom when they have time or outside of the classroom if need be. At Hillcrest, we have Hillcrest Huddle. It is a group of K through 5, it's mixed groupings, and we meet once a month and we do like team building activities. We focus on whatever the word of the month is for that month and do activities together as a group. We also, at the end of the year, we have our field day, and that is with our huddle. So then the older kids help take care of the younger kids and walk them through all that. So there's a lot of really great opportunities. And the littles love their huddled older kids. They love that. Battle of the Books, that is offered at all elementary schools. It is through WEMTA. It's a statewide reading competition for 4th through 12th grade. And it targets award-winning and nominated literature. The kids read books and then they have questions they need to answer, and depending how well they do, teams get eliminated, and then the team that has the most points at the end will battle other schools. We have choice boards, STEM projects, authentic tests that we have students do. We do send some kids on with a GT consortium to a writing retreat at UWGB through Einstein. We have concerts, we have science fairs. There's just a lot of opportunity to kind of figure out what you like, what you're good at. And elementary teachers are kind of masters at figuring out what everyone needs and getting it done. We do also have some technology programs, which I guess with everything going on now, it sounds kind of negative, but how we've used it at Hillcrest is we've used it in a way to help the teacher figure out and pinpoint what the kids can do and what they can't. So if they are accelerated, they're like, oh, okay, they need help with negative numbers, I can do that. And then they can go in and help them when they need to, with the help of that program, kind of helping us figure out what they know and what they don't know. Do you have any questions for me about elementary?
In the team approach that you talked about, the one group that wasn't mentioned were students.
Oh, yes.
Are they part of the conversations in this as well?
I feel like in elementary, the ones that I have been a part of, I don't recall the student being present. I'm sure they were talked to by us, by their teacher, but I don't remember them being present. Do you remember, Jenny, in the meeting?
I don't remember them either, even in other meetings that I've been a part of.
Yeah.
And I think it maybe depends upon age and, not that they couldn't be a part of parts of that, but some of those things as you're talking as a team might be appropriate to do more with adults and then bring them in.
Sure.
But yes, they're learning and their kind of pathway, so.
Well, I just think like when you start to get to that 5th, 6th grade level where students understand that they're mastering their learning targets and they're coming home and telling their parents that they're bored, that maybe is valuable information for the teachers to listen to as well, to understand why they're bored or what they're bored about.
Right.
Because you might lose some of that enthusiasm for learning if these enrichments aren't enough, or if they're not capturing what those students really need. So I think that their voice is important, especially as they start to grow and really understand what that learning means to them.
Absolutely. So secondary, Amanda, turn it over to you.
When we say secondary, most of these examples are going to be specific to the middle school because that's what I have access to. I'm sure that the high school has a lot more, advanced options with things that they have interests of, and they have a lot more, advanced placement, AP classes, things like that. But we're going to focus specifically on the middle school for these awesome examples that I found. I'm Amanda Jacobson, by the way. I'm the learning support teacher at the middle school, one of the learning support teachers. Some of the amazing things that I have found that as I was kind of digging, and a lot of these things I wasn't even aware of. So I think that's one of our goals, is to get better at communicating with students, with parents, with everybody in the district to tap into some of this, because we're really doing some amazing things. In the arts, I kind of separated it a little bit different into kind of more core subjects or the arts. We have Great Lakes Mural Community Project that was just done with a local artist at the middle school. She did send me pictures and I forgot to put them in here, but it's really neat. We also have advanced music students that come together. They actually call it Funk Friday. They meet every other Friday and they get together, they get 3 beats and they have to create an entire song off of 3 beats. They name it, they play it, they record themselves playing it. It's really neat. Our advanced students are also elected by their teachers, nominated by teachers for the artistic retreat that I take them to each spring for CISA 7's Gifted and Talented Consortium. ELA, some of the things that I found out, we do independent novel studies based on the interest of the student. Coursera is something that's been used in the past for more self-directed, self-paced courses. Mystery Writing Retreat and Young Authors Anthology. That's also a writing retreat that happens through the Gifted and Talented Consortium, where I take the kids to Manitowoc, to the school forest in Manitowoc and Two Rivers area, and they love that. That one's also selected. They either have to be selected based on something that they have written and submitted, so they actually have to write and submit work for that one, which is really, really cool for them because then they get published. So they are technically published authors when they're done with the anthology. In science, we have advanced students that have opportunities to actually teach the labs. So I heard from a couple 7th grade science teachers that they utilize those students that are advanced to actually take what they know, show it in a different way by actually teaching their peers. They also get opportunities to do different types of challenges, engineering team challenges, outside of the curriculum, things that they're really passionate about. They also get to experiment and present their findings at a science fair each year. They also, in Go Time or Skills, are afforded the opportunity to kind of come up with their own experiments that they want to run, or challenges, STEM challenges, things like that, and they have advanced learning groups that get together and do those things too. In math, one really cool thing that a 6th grade math teacher did was she worked with an advanced group in her house, and they did a pop tab challenge where they calculated how many tabs made a pound. Then they designed an actual container that held exactly 1 pound of pop tabs. And then they worked with CTE in the building to 3D print those boxes, and then they are placed around the school for collection of pop tabs. So that's just one of the examples of neat things, opportunities that kids have for math extension and making it meaningful, making the learning meaningful for them. Social studies, we have a gifted and talented retreat that we go on, it's actually twice a year. That's Great Decisions. They go to actually St. Norbert College, and they meet up with other districts, and they're able to work through, that's mostly kind of more worldly decisions that are happening in the world, not just the United States. And then we have a number of clubs. I guarantee they're not even all on here. Art club, cribbage club, FFA, fishing rod building, chess clubs, book clubs, Hope Squad, student council for leadership. A lot of really awesome things. They are available to all students for the most part, those types of clubs, but we do encourage our advanced learners to try to attend some of that and see if they're interested in those opportunities as well. So this is the continuum of programming that Jolyn was talking about before. So we saw the RTI model, the pyramid model. Our philosophy is, of course, to provide appropriate challenges for all students through differentiation, enrichment, and personalized learning. We do that through the tiered approach, just like in RTI. So it's just kind of upside down in the advanced learners model. So we just try to, as the pyramid gets smaller, we're focusing and intensifying the learning a little bit more for those advanced learners. So in the green is most of our students, about 80%, I think this model comes from the DPI, about 80% of students that are identified in gifted and talented or advanced would fall into this tier, which is universal classroom differentiation. These are things that the teachers are doing within their own classrooms, and finding ways to challenge them through choice and voice and things like that. The next part of the pyramid is enrichment. This is typically 10 to 15% of students that are identified will fall into that. Those are what we're talking about, the extra advancement in go times, skills block, more of that tier 2 kind of pull out model, giving them that extra challenge that they need. The goal here is not to give students more work, but to make the work meaningful to them, to make their learning and their growth meaningful. That could be, community projects, that could mean STEM labs, that could be novel studies or other types of challenges. And then finally, 5 to 10% in the pink will need individualized services. So that's the DEP, the stuff that Tricia talked about, the DEP, the advanced subject learning, and then the advancement in grade level. It's also important to reiterate, I think Tricia might have touched on this or Jolyn, but we also have to look at our criteria for not only are they falling in that academically, but do they have the life skills as well, which is why we do life skills in our buildings to make sure that they are able to be successful in all realms of advanced learning. And then of course we have goals. We know that what we've done is not the end. We want to, continue. The truth is we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot in the last couple of years. I've been going to Gifted and Talented Consortium meetings. I've been going to Gifted and Talented conferences, and we have learned a lot about what other districts are doing. We've learned a lot about what we're doing, and we're doing a lot of really, really great things. So we want to continue that. Our resources, making sure that we're continuing finding and evaluating available resources, learning about new tools and forms, creating a toolbox for our staff to use, for our parents to use. Forms of assessment, there's a lot of different forms of assessment out there we could be looking into, and expanding support where it's needed in families, in students, in the community. The community, I think there's a lot of opportunity for for us to connect with them and access both in-school and off-site opportunities. There's a lot of really great things happening in our community that apply directly to our curriculum that we could make we could tap into. And then communication, of course, strengthen communication with staff and families about opportunities that are available, and making sure everybody knows what's out there already. Because I think there's probably a lot out there that families don't know about. When I started digging in, I couldn't believe about all the amazing things that are happening in my own building. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so fun. I'm going to go to Funk Friday. And I didn't even know that was happening. So I think there's a lot of really great future goals that we can tap into. But we've already done a lot of really, really great work too.
Questions?
So these DEPs, we have one in the district right now. 5% is 200 kids, right? So what do we do tomorrow to start getting there? How do we get these kids looped back in? Like, what's the communication look like with our teams? We've maybe lost it a little bit, but how do we bring it back?
I think a big thing, like Amanda said, was the communication piece starting there. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but as far as like getting the information out, a part of that is figuring out what we have, the resources, educating staff on the process and families, and just kind of strengthening the messaging and the education behind it is the first step. We, like Amanda said, have learned a lot these past, since we've been working through this, and we've kind of developed the handbook. A committee worked through that. So a big piece, yes, is working through the education, and then our LST team, a part of that is really helping to get them connected with resources for those out of sync learners. So yes, our struggling learners, but our advanced learners as well. So that's something as a team that we've been having conversations about. How can we continue to strengthen that process? So kind of twofold, but that's our starting point right now.
And what if there's parents out there that the kids are coming home saying, my kid's bored, I don't feel like he's being challenged? What's the avenue for them? Where do they start?
I think first and foremost, contact the building, contact their teacher, make sure that they're aware of that. I think especially in the middle school level, we don't always know what's boredom because they're not challenged and what's boredom because they're middle schoolers and they just don't like it, right? So I think it's a communication with the teacher first, admins within the building, because that's really where it's going to start anyway. It's going to be that team approach of, okay, now we know that there's a need. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot at many of the gifted and talented conferences and stuff is you see a need and you serve a need. See a need, serve a need, and you hear that a lot. And I think we just need to get better at identifying. It's not always about a gifted and talented program. It's about avenues and pathways to give students better opportunities to make their learning meaningful and to continue to challenge them and help them grow. But I think that has to start in that building with their own teachers to see what's being done already and what could we do to make this more meaningful for them. Can we give them more choice? Can we give them more, it's not about more work. It's about giving them different opportunities to prove what they know.
So about how many referrals are you guys getting like a month right now?
Referrals for
Applications,
advanced learning or
question, yeah. I mean, if a
I have
teacher,
not gotten
like obviously you have a form, a document you showed us in there, like that people need to fill out. I mean, like how many is this committee or team receiving like a month?
Sure. So we really haven't received any recently. Like we have the one in the district right now. Like Amanda said, starting with connecting with the teacher and then kind of building level and talking about that specific child. Not many go to a DEP. That is more rare to actually have that formalized plan.
Well, I guess my question really wasn't about the actual getting a plan, because you obviously have to qualify. I'm curious how many kids are even referred to be studied or looked into, like on a monthly basis. I mean, like she said, we got 5% is 200 kids. I mean, and I don't mean to, because there's a lot of really good stuff going on here, and I don't mean to play this negative, but if out of 3,000 some kids that we have in there, the state says there should be about 200 at minimum on some kind of special. If we're not getting any referrals on a regular basis, there's a problem with the process.
Can I,
So-
can I just clarify something about the
Yeah.
200?
Yeah.
So
I was
So
just
we
thinking
have,
there.
you know, we have like,
Okay, so I understand where you're going. Say 10% of the whole district would fall under that 80 to 15, 20. I understand it's a breakdown of the gifted and talented.
of students who
Yeah.
are
So,
flagged based on our criteria for gifted and talented.
so even I think though it would be
5%
reasonable to say that based on the criteria that we saw here, still should be about 200 kids that would be under consideration for gifted and talented type status.
Yeah.
You're telling me that you have no referrals yet.
Well, one thing Tricia had mentioned to me when I was out in the building last week was that we think that that pyramid is probably too high, and I went back and I
Okay.
looked at the DPI,
So-
and the TPI says that they technically don't recommend
Yep.
a percentage anymore.
So let's throw the whole pyramid out. Let's talk about this. You got 3,000 some kids in school.
I would say 3%.
3%, right?
3% is probably 2 to
So we're still
3%
over
is
100, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten, I mean, we're now getting in a month here. We don't have like any referrals.
But I think you're looking at it wrong from a referral point. The teachers are looking at the data, so in their teams, data's coming in, Ames Web, they'll start to look at that. They'll start to talk about what are we going to do for all of our students. So during target time, win time, skill building, go time, they're going to talk about how are we going to meet their needs.
So do we ever look back at last year's data that
Yes.
came in and in spring?
Yep.
And so what happens with all those kids that excelled in high scores like in spring? What do we do to carry that over? I mean,
Part of it is now the data's not coming in spring anymore, so that's delayed our process. But otherwise, when we used to have the data, they would sit down end of May, June, they would go through that data, they would complete their pyramid. So they would say, here's our tier 3 kids that, and we're going to share this with staff, here's our tier 2 kids, and then obviously everybody else falls into tier 1. And so then those would be shared out. Now, this year, data didn't come out until August. Thus, we're behind the ball game, but so is everybody else in the state.
So I think the moral of the story is they have some work to do. I
Yeah.
think that's what I heard him say.
yeah, I mean,
So
and I'm not trying to beat
that's
anybody
where we're
up
at,
here.
right?
I honestly feel like there should be somebody dedicated that this is what they deal with. Like, and it seems like you guys all kind of have other roles, and you're not only dealing with the issues on the bottom side, you're dealing with the issues on the top side. It seems like something that we as a district should look at making an investment into personnel or whatever. It just I don't think anybody's getting the justice they deserve out of this whole deal. Like I think it's a little.
And I can talk a little bit about, it was a topic in our June Brown County Curriculum Director meeting, and we are very similar to where other districts are. There's only one district, and they have a lot of people and a lot of positions and a lot of roles of their interventionists, their literacy coaches, their other coaches, reading specialists. I think I just about fell over when I saw what they're putting in as reading specialists. Granted, they have 6,100 students, but 2 or 3 neighboring schools, and I asked one of them, I said, so when you say it's Appendix G in your handbook, she said it's a stipend. A teacher gets a stipend to be a GT person. Well, or in a different district, the learning support teacher, with the exception in one building, was a teacher, gets a stipend of like $1,000 to do this. So we've just, and it's always been our philosophy of a learning support teacher serving out of sync learners, and for us, out of sync learners are the top kids, and so we used to have a peak person in the district, and that didn't work either. When you have 1.5 people trying to service 7 buildings, it doesn't work.
In terms of, Steve, I'm sorry, you had a question.
No, go ahead. I won't forget. I don't think.
Okay, we'll test you. In terms of the LST support at the schools, because you're servicing kind of the top and lower ends of this, how do you feel your capacity is at your individual schools?
I can speak to most of what we're doing with extension stuff is helping currently with resources and ideas and things for teachers to do that in like a go time or differentiate. We've had a couple questions like, hey, how do I do this? Where do I go with this? And so we can kind of dig into more.
That's how elementary is as well.
So we're not currently, I think, Ted Sorozik at the middle school level is taking high math kids, and he's doing extensions with them. Our science teachers are doing extensions with their own kids. Social studies doing extensions with their own kids. So I think it's really, it falls to different people kind of, and we're all trying to service all those kids as a team, not just falling on us to, be pulling those kids as well. That is something we talked about in one of our LST meetings actually, is what are we going to do for those out-of-sync learners? Can we do better at pulling them for things? And
Because our goal is for everyone to grow.
Yeah.
I think there is obviously a lot of focus on kids that are below, but it's just as important that those high achieving kids grow too, and that's we're tasked with that, and that's part of that cycle that we were talking about that we go through with every unit and with every standard.
Tricia has served in a unique role because she's had to teach the 6th grade math class. There's been 4 or 5 kids, and it's fallen on the LST of like, all right, we're going to compact 6th grade math in that grade. Now that's probably that group graduated 2 years ago.
Came back, yeah.
Yeah, there was a large group that year. So that doesn't happen every year, but that was an instance of, we had 4 or 5 kids who were off the charts, and we had to do that to meet their needs. We've had the other, situation where a student has rode the bus in the morning to the middle school. They've taken the 6th grade math course. Parent has came and picked them back up and brought them back out to their elementary school for that. And so there's different ways that we've met kids' needs depending on where they're at. Sometimes it's a computer program, and sometimes, like they said, that's not always the best received, but it's what we have. I've purchased Bring 'em Young courses for students as well, that like if they've tapped out in a certain area, world language happened to be one of them. So when they got to the middle school, I had to start, even our world language teachers couldn't meet that need. I had to go off and find courses. We've used simulation courses out of the state organization to do some of that as well. So we're always looking for resources. We're going to approach our colleagues in the other districts and say, we're all looking for the same thing. Why don't we just work on this together and create that toolbox and those strategies? And so Jolene and I talked about that. I'm like, let's reach out to West Appear and their guy and say, we'll partner with you on this because you're saying it's a need. We know it's a need. Let's just do it together and work together on this.
What do you think we could do to ensure that all of our teachers are aware of all the extension opportunities? So then it's communicated to parents, students know, okay, yes, this is something I'm interested in, because right now I do not think that everybody's the same page. You just said,
Yep,
I didn't even
that's
know
one
all
of
these
our goals.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Because
communication is definitely one of our goals. I think there's a huge benefit in just putting out to families like this, is because a lot of students know some of those things exist. Students see it in their sign up for Go Time. They see what they have, but they don't take it home and say, hey, did you know I could do this? That's, so I think it's just a lack of communication, just putting out everything that we already have. And then as we continue to build that toolbox, continue to send out new opportunities and, tap into the community aspect.
So before we get off the schedule, I just want to talk about Heidi's question still. So if we start getting these referrals, you do the communication, and the teachers start sending you the referrals, do you guys have time to do that? Are we built for it?
We're gonna find out.
It is a team.
Well, always, it's a team.
It's
We're
a
always
team,
gonna find
too,
the
that's
time for that.
Right, but
Yeah,
that's
so it's
gonna
not
be
just
meetings,
fun.
right? It's
Yeah.
gonna be additional things in your day, and I just want you to be honest, because like if we need resources, that's what
Yep.
the board has to do, right? Like so.
Like I know I sound like kind of a weird, like a combative, but my thing is like I hear, and I guess in my mind I see the answer is probably not if we really would get 100 applications, right? But I never see the want list. Put your want list together. If you want this, ask for it. You know, like, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just want them to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
we're giving
It's a
them
good
more work right
question.
now.
But I think as we go, that will become clearer in what we're able to do and what we might need more support around.
And then I hope you come back,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like, we don't wanna set you up to fail here either.
Right.
My first thought is I don't exactly know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like,
We
Of
haven't had
course
that,
we
so there's no
want
way to know.
everybody's
Right.
needs met and we want to do well and we want to, meet the needs of everyone and sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
My
Especially in
biggest fear
elementary.
is the teachers have so much already.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we're LSPs.
And so, well, they're teachers, you know, like everybody has such a full plate now that it's like, if we can expand, it might actually physically have to expand these programs for them to excel.
Go ahead.
I did not forget. So we were talking about the assessment data, right, that we're waiting for it. Do we have to, right? Are there other things that we're doing in the classroom, going back to Jen's comment, my kid comes home, has a headache, is bored or whatever? Is there something we're doing already? I'm sure the answer is yes, but do we need both pieces to move forward? Or can we move forward with the in-classroom observation and student performance?
Well, I think in the handbook it talks about taking all of those, just like when we're looking at the other end and how we're going to service kid, you triangulate all of the data together. You don't rely on
But we get the ball in motion
You kind
at
of get a
least,
full picture.
right? So if we see a student that's high performer right now, we're not like sit to the side until we're starting, okay.
Right, yeah. And you'll use the previous year's data as well, and it's probably pretty comparable the next year, because we were just looking at some on an individual student, and there aren't big jumps. You don't jump percentiles usually, so that's pretty easy to look at as well. But then there's our local screeners, there's the classroom data, it's a multitude of things.
Okay, thank you.
So this is not a new program, or are we just kind of refocusing on this?
Revamping, refocusing.
Okay, because we've always been trying to identify these kids. My daughter just went through Sunnyside. I got the on board dad thing, and now she's in 7th grade and she's being moved up in, I don't know, it's in ELA. So we're already, is it primarily like in the elementary grades where we have to identify the kids? Is that the biggest lift?
they can
in the
be
first-
identified really at any
Right.
level.
Right.
I
So
would
it's just something we're trying to focus on. We've been doing, my kids, I've seen them reach out there through 7 grades to keep her growing. So it's not like we haven't been doing it, we're trying
I
to,
would say a lot of times it's more 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe into 7th, and then it seems to get easier to meet their needs. When they get to high school, there's just so many opportunities.
Right.
Like, you heard about the Start College Now and the ACC or ECCP AP classes you heard about and where our scores are at. Advanced courses, so kids can be passionate. If they are into engineering, they can do the project lead the way and get credits that way, or they'll leave our campus and they'll go places if it's not what we're offering as well. And so that just is an easier flow of how to make it happen. Usually 7th through 12th grade tends to be a little bit easier. It's 3rd grade, it's really 4th, 5th, 6th,
Yeah, 'cause you
and
don't
maybe
have a
into
ton.
7th a little bit.
You don't have a ton of data, like hard data to look at before that. You know in your class who things.
it falls on the teachers. They're
Yeah.
the ones there every day and they
Yes.
identify and
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
thank you for presenting to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. So at the elementary level, seeing some of the examples that you listed out, and I know we're not represented by every elementary school, and we have 5 of them. How can we ensure that we are offering kind of the same type of programs? It might be called something or wrapped in a different color bow, but ultimately offering the same things throughout all of our elementary schools, because
The equity.
I can
yes.
say it's not happening now, and I know that's our focus this year, do better and, ensure, but could we, maybe as an elementary team, and I know all LSTs get together, but focus maybe on making that more equitable across the district, ensuring all the elementary schools have these programs available, and then again, both the communication of it and then those
Yes.
teachers and parents
That
are
was
aware.
on our list of grows, is the equity of it all, to make sure that everyone's getting the opportunities in some form or fashion, it might look or be called different, like you mentioned, but for sure. Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes. All right, that concludes our meeting tonight. The next business meeting is on October 15th in this room. Currently, we have out-of-state field trips, long-term facilities roadmap, and certifying the levy and making any final budget adjustments and a finalization of the mill rates. We do need to move into a closed session tonight per Wisconsin Statute 1985 1C to consider a proposed employee retirement agreement. Is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to convene into closed session. All those in favor?
All right.
All those opposed? Motion